Hey guys, Hastings here and welcome to round 2 of the Junior Sports Car Championship. My teammate would take pole for the first race here at the Yas Marina Circuit with a privateer and a Pontiac in second. I would line up directly behind my teammate in third and Tom would join me on the second row qualifying fourth. The third row was the two FK Motorsport cars with the number 30 out-qualifying his teammate in the number 12. Next up we have the second of the privateers, this one in a Nissan, and one of the eBay racing cars. Behind him we have the second privateer in a Nissan, followed by the first of the Laser Tools Racing Pontiacs. Next up we have two more privateers, one in a Honda, one in a Toyota, and then the second of the Laser Tools Racing Pontiacs. Near the back of the grid we've got the second of the eBay racing cars, followed by two more privateers, one in a Subaru and another in a Honda. So, to the start of this first race, looking to get a nice clean start, and away we go. Immediately we can see that those Pontiacs on the left hand side of the grid are left hand side as we look at it from here, left hand side of up the inside anyway. Very fast starting. My team had a little bit of pressure from the yellow and blue car, and Tom was definitely pressuring me, having to look up the inside into turn 1 and not getting it done, but going alongside through turn 2. Fortunately I had the inside line and the racing line into turn 3, and I would immediately try and turn defence into attack as I fended off Tom, and we'll try and take second off the other Pontiac going to the outside for the first part of the chicane before we get to the hairpin. And the right hand of the second part of the chicane, I do manage to indeed get my car in front and up into second place. I don't expect it to be quite that simple, as Tom's going around the outside of the other Pontiac, and the other Pontiac's trying to push me around the corner, get me to give a hurry up. And as we go down the straight now, riding on board with my car, you can see that we're virtually 3 wide. Tom's managed to get past the other Pontiac and is now looking to try and go to the inside of me down into the hairpin. Pontiacs with very good launches of the slow hairpin onto this straight, but potentially lacking, or maybe definitely lacking, in a bit of straight line speed compared to my Toyota, as I would manage to clear just enough of a gap to cover the defensive inside line into the hairpin, but Tom's practically glued to my bumper as we come out of the hairpin and onto the start-finish straight to finish the first lap. So a very good start for Tom and myself, both moving up a position. Further down the grid, and we've got one of the FK Motorsport cars and a Laser Tools Racing car. The FK Motorsport car, they're having not the best start after qualifying. I've been either 5th or 6th, depending on which one it is. I can't see the number from here. But yeah, fighting very hard with the Laser Tools Racing car, who's obviously wasn't on the pace in qualifying, but not exactly going to give the place up easily in the race. The FK Motorsport car there on the outside of turn 3, on the inside of the first part of the chicane, but that gives him the outside for the second part, where I managed to get my move done on that one. And indeed, the Laser Tools Pontiac managed to fend off the FK car by doing pretty much the same thing that I did to the other Pontiac when I took second off his hands. As I said, the Pontiac gets a very good launch off of the slow speed hairpins, not hairspins. It would be not a good thing if you were to spin off a hairpin. But the Honda gets a very good run down the straight, and I think has the best top speed, or is definitely the fastest down towards its top end or the bottom end of the straight, and breezes past the Pontiac with relative ease, and manages to take the inside defensive line into the hairpin. The Pontiac's not exactly going to give it up easily though, trying to look round the outside there, but not managing to take the position back, and it is the FK Motorsport car that would come across the line to finish lap 2 in that position. Back up to the battle for second now between myself and Tom. Tom dropping back a little bit, but very good under the brakes into the hairpin, and like we said, off of that hairpin and off of the hairpin onto the straight, very quick off of the slow, or out of the slow corners. So he's now on my outside as we come round the last corner, getting a very nice run there. I was on the much tighter inside line, really compromised myself going down towards turn 1 on this next lap. Excuse me. Although I was on the outside, that was actually the racing line into turn 1. So although Tom's up my inside, I did manage to fend him off for one more corner at least, and he's still right there going through turns 2 and 3. But fortunately, he's right there, as in right behind me, as opposed to right alongside me. So it makes it a little bit easier to defend when you haven't got half of the track that you can't use because there's a car in the way. Going into the coming out of the chicane now, as I try and get my words together, going into the hairpin. Tom trying to get that nice little cutback line. As we've seen that the Pontiacs are very quick out of the corners, as I've said for 3 times now. We get a lovely view of the rear bumper of my car, checking out my sponsors there. And Tom, just sat in my slipstream all the way down the straight, potentially trying to make a move into the hairpin at the end of it. But like I said, although it's got a very good launch out of the corner at the top speed end of the things, the Pontiac is slightly lacking. I do manage to make a little bit of a gap by the time we get into the braking zone, which just means that Tom can't throw one up the inside. But on the exit of the corner though, like we said, very good launch out of it, so he can put me under pressure as we go into the next few corners and round the last corner. And once again, he's right up behind my bumper, and I'm having to take a very defensive line as we go down towards turn 1, eventually coming back to cover the racing line. Going around turn 1 now, and I run a little bit wide. I've been pushing a little bit too hard trying to keep Tom behind me, and that gives Tom the opportunity to stick his nose up the inside into turn 2, but you don't really want to be on the tight line there, and I managed to sweep around the outside and just hold on to the position and take the racing line back by the time we get to turn 3. Down the hill now into turn 4, the first part of the chicane, and again I'm just a little bit clear of Tom, which means I don't really have to worry about him making a move, but I just need to get the hairpin right to make sure I get a nice good run, park it on the apex. Tom gives me a little hurry up bump, he's still pushing me around the corner, trying to make me go a bit faster. We're so close to the back of my car now that Forza reckons you'd be able to see through it from this position. But yeah, so Tom is basically gluing himself to the back of my bumper, trying to utilise the slipstream, because as we've said, as I've said a fair few times already, and we're only 6 minutes in, the Pontiac just isn't as quick as some other cars in a straight line once they get towards the top end, so they really have to make the most of their launch out of the corners and then try and stick in the slipstream. Another lap and another good exit from Tom out of the hairpin, and just really continuing to put me under a lot of pressure. All of this fighting between me and Tom is giving my teammate a bit of an easy ride really. He's got plenty of clean air, he's got no one to fight with, and you can see he's got not a huge gap back to the second place, but significant enough that he doesn't really have to worry. And worry he doesn't, as he decides to dive into the pit lane at the end of lap 4. This is a 15 lap race, and the pit window is between laps 4 and 11, so you can pit any time in there. My teammate deciding to pit as early as possible and get it out of the way. We're going to ride on board with him now, just to show how long this pit lane is, because it is a very long one, to say the least. I haven't timed it exactly, but we've been in this pit lane for quite a while now, as the camera gets very confused as the pit lane goes underneath the track. A very niche feature of this pit lane in Yas Marina. AI still got control at this point, deciding to go very slowly around the corner, but my teammate eventually gets control back of his car, staying to the left hand side of that pit lane line even, and coming out in some nice clean air. He wasn't the only person to pit though. Also following him through was the 914 Honda Privateer, who doesn't particularly manage to get back into some clean air. As he comes out of the pits, he's immediately under pressure from a fellow Privateer and a fellow Honda, going to the outside of the first part of the chicane, trying to get the inside to the second part, but doesn't quite get it done. He wasn't really alongside enough, so he's going to try and perhaps do something into this hairpin. No, the 914 car defending well, parking it on the apex. Well, not necessarily parking it on the apex, but covering the apex, making the other Privateer car work very hard to try and get that position. Now they're both in Hondas this time, so the only real advantage that either car is going to get down the straight is how good they were out the corner, or the amount of slipstream he's going to be able to utilise, which isn't particularly significant on Forza, which is a bit of a shame I guess. But remember, in these cars, not the fastest cars in the world, they top out at about 130 miles an hour I believe down the end of this straight, so not the most significant slipstream anyway, especially at these sort of relatively low speeds. But the 914 Honda has done well, fending off the other car and retaining his position. Back up towards the front of the grid now, and I believe this is turning into a battle for 5th place. Excuse me. You can see the car that started up in 2nd is just ahead of them after dropping down to 4th behind myself and Tom, who are also still running incredibly close together at the top of shots. But that's not the battle we're focusing on. Right now we're looking at the Privateer and the Nissan fighting the number 12 FK Motorsport Honda. the Nissan being very quick through the hairpin there, getting a very good launch out of the corner, pushing the Honda around the corner, and again being so close that it's gone invisible. But as we have seen time and time again, you're going to get fed up of hearing this because this is only round 2, but the Hondas are very quick in a straight line. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. So yeah, the Nissan is another car that gets a very good drive out of the slow corners, but just doesn't have the top end of the likes of the Honda. So the Honda can make a nice gap and doesn't really have to worry about defending too hard once they get to the braking zone for the hairpin at the end of the straight. And going on to the pit straight, the Honda gets a little bit of a slide on, so the Nissan gets a chance and squeezes right up against the barrier on the inside of the circuit. Not exactly the optimum racing line round the next corner, but he does manage to get the move done on the Honda, who was far more cautious going into turn 1, considering he was having to defend his position there. However, it may have paid off in the long run as he gets a rather good run towards turn 2, but through turn 3 he doesn't quite manage to make the move stick like it potentially looked like he might. I thought he had his nose up the inside there, but running down towards the hairpin, not the hairpin, the chicane, sorry. And once again, you can see just how much the Honda closes in at sort of the higher speed sections of the track. But hopefully we'll get to see out of this hairpin. Oh no, the Nissan gets a bit of slide on. I was going to say hopefully we'll see the Nissan start to pull away in the traction zones, but rather struggling there. It's a bit weird really. Like I said, the Nissan gets a very good launch out of the corners along with the likes of the Pontiac, and I believe the Mazda is very similar as well. Whereas, and I'm pretty sure I haven't mentioned this yet, but the Honda is very quick at the top end, so if he can stay within touch he might be able to make a move into the braking zone, but unfortunately he wasn't quite close enough on this occasion, and the Nissan is relatively safe in his position for now. And there's a little bit of contact there. The Honda finally decides he's had enough of this battle and darts into the pits, leaving the Nissan to lap in some clean air. Back up to the battle for second between myself and Mr. Tom, who was really getting on my nerves. He was just making the same moves time and time again. He was this close every lap going on to the straight, and I would pull a little bit of a gap by the time we get to the braking zone, just because my car's a little bit quicker in a straight line at the top end at least. But whenever we would get towards the braking zone, down in towards the hairpin, a Pontiac really rather excelled. Although he didn't go for the line up the inside, I was really struggling to hit my apexes, and Tom managed to get right alongside on this occasion. I think that's the best he'd managed it, and I was getting so fed up I just decided, screw my strategy, I'm just going to pit now, which I think was about lap 7. I was initially intending to go all the way to lap 11 at the end of the pit window, but you know, I was pretty much forced into taking my pit stop there. Tom was up me inside and I was in the middle of a battle, and I thought, no, I'd rather just pit and get some clean air. Somebody that hadn't pitted is the person on your screen now, the number 145 car, privateer in a Toyota. Sorry if you just heard my phone go off there. But he was fighting with somebody who had pitted, notably my teammate, in equal cars, remember, but my teammate was managing to get some rather good runs out of the hairpin, and considering that they weren't really in the same race, the privateer didn't really make it too hard for my teammate to go past, as he was nice and clear into the braking zone, and yeah, a nice thing to see there. Not fighting too hard, but you know, not getting out of the way. This isn't a blue flag situation, but when you're not quite in the same race as someone, he makes a little mistake there as well, which gives my teammate a bit of breathing space. So good sportsmanship all round there, I think. About a lap later, and it was my turn to start catching up to this fellow Toyota of ours. I think there's not actually many Toyotas in the series apart from myself and my teammate, but as I got close, I was sort of starting to line up a move. The privateer decides to dart into the pit lane to take his pit stop, and I believe that's about lap 10 now that we're going on to, as one of the FK Motorsport cars follows down the pit straight. Back to Tom now, and he still hasn't pit, coming on to the end of this lap 11, so he indeed must pit, as this is the end of the pit window. The AI doing some sort of slalomy thing into the pit lane, as the other Pontiac that was near the front decided to follow him into the pits and was doing exactly the same thing. Once again, we're going to follow Tom down the pits, or well, not once again following Tom, but once again we're going to follow the entire pit stop. Although we're running on cosmetic damage, so the cars don't actually stop. You still have to go through the pit lane. Remember that Tom and I were fighting incredibly hard over second position, and when I pitted, Tom was actually probably about half a car length in front. So where is he going to come out? You can see my teammate there going past to retain the lead, but where am I? There I am. Can Tom get up to speed quick enough to take second off me? It doesn't look like he's going to be able to. So Tom comes back out and slots into third position, and hopefully, for me at least, that there is now a big enough gap between myself and Tom so that I don't have to worry about defending at all, really, because it was a really rather intense battle, which was great fun. But, you know, I'd rather be tackling my teammate for first. I mean, who wouldn't? But yeah, if we can both get some clean air in, we might be able to put a good lap in and get a decent grid spot in the next race. Two other cars that were fighting on the grid was the FK Motorsport car that was really still recovering from his bad start. We saw him fighting loaded down earlier on, I believe. I believe this is the same car. Being a white number on a bright green livery, it's not the easiest number to be able to read, so I might be getting those two mixed up, and I apologise if I am. But overtaking the privateer in the Toyota now down the straight, relatively easy job to do. Like we've said, Hondas are quite quick in a straight line. Going into the braking zone, it's a nice big gap and doesn't really have to worry about the Toyota coming back at him, although he does run wide on the exit, so now he has got to worry about the other car coming back at him because he's on his outside. Rides over the curb, gets a nice good run onto the straight, and finally gets the position done at, I guess you could say, the second time of asking, managing to stay ahead as they start this next lap. Another battle going on was between one of the other privateers in the mind blank in the Nissan, fighting with the number 33 car in the Laser Tools Racing Pontiac, and this is the very last lap. So expect to see some rather ballsy manoeuvres made, because when it gets to the last lap and you're fighting over a position, it's kind of sort of hell to leather, as they say, sort of all or nothing almost. As they go onto the straight, both of these cars are known for getting rather good launches out of the slow corners, as I've said a fair few times already. I really should stop mentioning it. So all the Nissan's got to try and do is sit in the slipstream and close up as much as he possibly can and try and go up the inside into the chicane, or not the chicane. Why am I mixing up chicanes and hairpins today? They're completely different. But anyway, the Nissan does manage to go up the inside into the hairpin. See, got it right. But the Pontiac manages to hold it around the outside and now has the inside line as they go onto this final straight, and the Pontiac holds on to, I believe, what was about 6th position. Out in front, and it was my teammate that would come home and take quite a comfortable victory, as everybody else was battling behind him. He had a nice clean race. I followed home in second, and it would be Tom to come home and complete the podium in this first race. One more battle for a position that hadn't quite yet been decided was, I believe, about 8th and 9th. See the Nissan going really rather wide onto the back straight for this final time, but does get a very good run out of it because of that. The Mazda sits in the slipstream and just tries to close up as much as he possibly can. First time we've really seen any highlights with the Mazdas in, so it's kind of hard to judge where they really are in terms of straight line speed. In testing and in the first round, they seem to be about on par with the likes of the Nissan in a straight line, but it doesn't look like he's actually going to be really close enough to get anything done at this point. And indeed, the Nissan not really in close enough range to strike or to fall back, so they're going to just follow suit. Not quite as much action as I thought there was there actually, but they come home in 8th and 9th respectively. So onto the grid for race 2. The grid for race 2 is ordered by the fastest laps from race 1. And my teammate was once again on pole, and I was joining him on the second row this time, starting in second. Tom was third, and fourth was the privateer in the Pontiac. So the top four starting the second race like we'd finished the first. The third row would once again be the two FK Motorsport cars in, I believe, the same order. Next up was one of the eBay Racing, or the lone surviving eBay Racing car, followed by the first privateer in a Nissan. And we've got a second privateer in a Honda, and the two Laser Tools Racing Pontiacs sandwiching another privateer in another Honda. And then towards the back of the grid, we've got three more privateers in Toyotas, or a Toyota, a Subaru, and another Nissan, respectively. So on to the start of the race. H2H Racing got a 1-2 in the first race, and a 1-2 for the start of the second race. Let's hope, for my sake and my team's sake, that we could finish like that. But once again, the Pontiac's very fast starting. Tom attacking me around the outside this time. Last race he was attacking me up the inside into turn 1. This time it's the outside. But once again, I would manage to hold him off for the time being. And going into turn 3 now, he was just like I was saying before, instead of attacking me and being sort of half alongside, I don't mind if he's attacking me but actually behind me, because it makes it rather easier to defend. And it's not at this early point in the race, I'm far more sort of worried about trying to keep my teammate honest and stop him having another easy race victory. Tom, though, would have a little bit sideways out of that hairpin there. We ride on board with him now, as he's got a Pontiac, or another Pontiac, up his inside, so they're going too wide now, or down the length of the straight, and they've got a rather quick Honda approaching behind them, who is also going to be trying to take positions off their hands, and they're going almost 3 wide there. They probably were at one point, so it's going to be last of the late breakers now, as the Pontiac sandwiched the Honda in the middle. I'm pretty sure there was contact between all 3 cars there. Unfortunately, nothing too serious. Tom gets sideways again due to the contact, but does come out of it the best. The other Pontiac not having the best luck there, as had probably the worst run of the lot and dropped back into the clutches of the Nissan. Another battle that's going on, and there was a rather laggy bump going into the hairpin. I don't think that actually happened in the way that it appeared, because the cars weren't really affected by it. But they're going 2 wide, almost 3 wide around the last corner, as the privateer and the Toyota is holding off the Laser Tools Pontiac. Wow, I do know car names, honest. So yeah, the Toyota holding off the Pontiac there, but the Honda managing to get past the Pontiac and is now attacking the Toyota as well. Another bad start from one of the FK Motorsport guys. Remember, they started up on the 3rd row for the second race and in the first race, and in both races we've seen them having to fight, or one of them at least, having to fight their way through the pack. Into the chicane now, the Honda's got the inside for the first part and the outside for the second part, but if he can hold it there, he's also got the inside going into the hairpin. He can hold it there, so he's got the inside into the hairpin, which is a much tighter line, so although it's preferable in terms of track positioning, he might not get the best run onto the corner. But going onto the straight now, he has managed to keep his car in front of the Toyota, and you know, it's the Honda and it's a straight, so we know what's going to happen. I don't need to say it again. But behind him, he's got a Pontiac putting on some rather large amounts of pressure, with another Honda coming to try and join the action. The Pontiac goes to the inside into the hairpin, and the Toyota's holding it around the outside, but it looks like the Pontiac's got the move done there. If the Toyota's got the inside into the last corner, Pontiac runs a little bit wide, and the Toyota actually had a pretty bad run through the last corner there. Instead of attacking the Pontiac, he's now lost another position as he drops behind the Honda, who's also looking to go around the outside of the Pontiac. They both go wide. I think they had a little bit of contact there as they're looking to rejoin the track, and they both drop back behind the Toyota. So a lot of positions changed in a very short amount of time. The battle for third was hotting up. I'd managed to break away from Tom and the FK Motorsport car and start trying to attack my teammate. But the FK Motorsport car started to attack Tom quite literally, as it gave him a little bit of a bump out of the hairpin. But the superior traction of the Pontiac gave him a good run out of the hairpin. But, you know, once again, it's a big straight and there's a Honda. So we know what's going to happen. Honda getting, even with that bump on Tom, getting a little bit of a worse run. Manages to not quite pull clear by the time they get to the braking zone, but you know, get his car alongside, get his nose in front, leaning on each other as they were coming into the braking zone. Tom running slightly wide there, a little bit of opposite lock from him to keep his car in a straight line, and now he's under pressure from the other Pontiac, but he manages to sort of put his car in the right position on the racing line and is holding the position for now at least. Back up towards, not back up to the battle for the lead now between myself and my teammate. And well, I call it a battle, it wasn't really. I was pushing as hard as I possibly could to keep my teammate honest, and you can see the sort of distance as we ride on board with myself on my front bumper. This was the sort of gap that was between us for the entire race. It was infuriating because I was close enough to start thinking about lining up a move to try and take the lead, but I was just never close enough to pull anything off, and it was so frustrating. There was a couple of areas that I was really struggling. I could never get a good enough run onto the back straight for a start, so even though I sat in the slipstream for a long time, I was never close enough to make a move. And coming through this section as well, I don't know what it was about the hairpin at the end of the straight and then the next corner onto the pit straight, but it's another area I just wasn't quick enough to start attacking my teammate. Talking of attacking other cars, it's Tom and the FK Motorsports cars back at it, having another little bump into the hairpin onto the straight, and the other Pontiac's getting involved this time as well. Tom sitting right up behind the Honda with his good launch out of the corner, but once again Forza decides that means the Honda is now invisible. Interesting logic there. Going down the straight, Tom sat in the slipstream with the Honda. We haven't really seen this before. The Honda's starting to pull away a little bit, but with the good launch of the Pontiac and the slipstream that he gets from the Honda, he's doing quite well actually, not really dropping back as much as you might expect from the Honda. And under braking, really hitting the apex, the Honda runs a little bit wide, a little bit of body contact as they sort of both try and take the same line, and they're too wide as they go around the final corner, with Tom getting the much better racing line around the outside. And the other Pontiac's now attacking the Honda as well, got the inside as they go in towards turn 1, riding on board with Tom now, so we can't see what's happening, but there we go. The Pontiac seemed to be a little bit cautious on the inside there, and the Honda manages to sweep around the outside and keep hold of that position, although he has lost one to Tom, so you know, it's a lot of positions changing hands in this race, and we're not even that far into it yet. Back up to the battle for the lead, and I was a little bit closer this time round. Still not quite close enough to do anything, I don't think, but I was there. I could potentially just take that wide line, get a bit of a cut back onto the straight, but I know I kicked up a little bit of smoke, got a little bit sideways. That was my best chance of potentially sitting right underneath my teammate's bumper down the straight. I had a nice cut back line, better run onto the straight perhaps, but just a bit too eager with the throttle, got a bit of sideways motion, and lost that little bit of momentum that's all important. You can see I'm there about, but I'm just not there. I can't just, it was so infuriating in the race, being, look how close I can get to his bumper under braking, but I just can't stick my nose up the inside. I can't even try a move, let alone pull one off. Man, it was so frustrating sat there in the race, and I'm watching it back, this is now 3 days later, and I'm just feeling all the frustrations again because it's just so infuriating. I try and dart towards the inside as we go towards turn 1, but there's nothing. I'm not going to be able to get that done there. I just, and it was probably not a good idea because I dropped back a little bit as well, because obviously trying to dive for the inside, taking a pretty bad line and losing a bit of momentum. We jump forward about a lap now, and I believe this might be I'm pretty sure this is the last lap now. So as I said in the first race, last lap moves are all or nothing. We're coming down towards the hairpin for the final time. I'm not really close enough, but I throw my car up the inside anyway. I get my nose alongside my teammate, and we're side by side on the exit of the corner. But once again, I was struggling with exits from the hairpin anyway, and being on the tighter inside line, my teammate just drove around the outside. But I've hopefully compromised him a little bit by throwing my car up the inside there, pushing him away from the apex, and I'm pretty sure this is the closest I've been, although it does pretty much, I don't know, maybe it's closer, I don't know, I can't really tell. So we go into the hairpin for the final time. Under the brakes, I look to the inside, I lift off a little bit to throw my car up the inside. There's a little bit of side-to-side contact between teammates. I'm on the inside, but on the outside for the first corner. I drop to the left to try and flick it back to the right and get a cut back and a better run. There's a little bit of smoke puffs up there as I push my teammate towards the line even faster. I don't manage to get the cut back, and I actually push him across the line for his second win of the round. And as you can see there, my teammate, 2 fastest laps, 2 pole positions and 2 wins, gives him 72 points to extend his lead by me in the championship by 10 more points. FK Motorsport cars not doing quite as well this week, but Tom was also very consistent with 2 podiums. So the overall standings, my teammate leads the way with 140 points, with myself in second, just 12 behind. In the constructors, H2H Racing, a rather commanding lead, who have 134 points in both races, which is the absolute maximum. So hopefully we can keep that going throughout the series. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I really do enjoy putting these videos together, and I enjoy racing in them as well. So thank you very much. But until next time, Hastings out.